Hello, Fear Hippie here is here, and today we are gonna see what appears on a tier list. So I want to make a tier list describing the different skill floors of killers. So somebody is near the bottom. It means to me, the best way I describe it is whoever has the easier chance to mess up throughout a match. Um, and that is less reliant, I would say, on survivor interactions, I suppose. Um, and also just kind of talking about some funny personal experiences I've had with the different killers. So right at the very bottom we have the Wraith. I would say the Wraith is the easiest killer to play in DPD. He has no bad maps. He can stick up easier on survivors. He can help people learn survivor movement a little bit better just by tracking people better than a lot of other killers. You can still mess up on him, but I feel like it's probably the least punishing compared to some of the other killers, and outright annoying the fact that you can do fake outs along with can do things like body block, catch, while being completely invisible, or body block exit gate. I feel like it's less the least punishing out of all the other killers. The other killers, they can be punished, but I believe there can be certain parts of their kit that really gets overlooked, or it can be so crucial and easy to mess up, you lose an entire game off of it. And I would say this is just more so general, in between like low, mid, and high ranked survivors. A good combination. Okay, Freddy. Freddy Krueger, not Freddy Fazbear. Freddy Krueger, I would say he is probably the one with the second lowest skill floor, because he has a built-in passive of he causes oblivious to other survivors, and that can mess up even some high-ranked survivors at times. If they just turn away and do not look at you for half of a second, you can do some pretty interesting mind games with it. And even though he's not classified as a short killer, he is pretty short. So there are some loots you cannot see him above, which really helps out. You do have his snares, and you do have to aim his snares, but I don't feel like it's as crucial as some other abilities with some other killers, and making sure you get value off of those. He also does have map mobility, and he can teleport to gens or teleport to healing, and also that being able to find people who are healing using your killer instinct while they are healing. I feel like that helps out with new player memory a bunch. Third, I would say it would be the Cenobite. Cenobite, he does have his chains that you do have to aim and direct, which can be extremely difficult. However, a lot of the times I feel like he plays very well as an M1 killer, and he has a fantastic passive, especially up against most survivors who do not know to grab the bots. And if they do grab the bots, you can use it for map mobility to get near other survivors or get near places you want to be at. So he is a great killer. Next one I would say would be Michael Myers. Michael Myers, the thing that always has felt punishing about him is his tier 1. If you cannot get out of tier 1, which it is easier to nowadays, but say for example you are running Scratch Mirror Myers, you're running Vanity Mirror Myers, survivors can abuse your hitboxes a lot of the times, so they can leap around like 5-foot loops, and there's legit nothing you can do about it. Especially if you put on something like Rapid. You eventually will catch up with Bloodlust, but it can be very brutal with that in those regards. Never run Rapid in a Vanity or scratch mirror at the same time. Um, and you can 99, but I feel like if you don't 99, you're still probably gonna get the value out of it. And 99 in people is one of the easier things to do. Next, I would say it would be Skull Merchant. Skull Merchant, you can just drop down her drones, you can spam them. I do love playing Skull Merchant. She's one of my favorite killers to play. I like the macro play of her. Given she is probably the weakest killer right now, I would say in DBD. But I would say she also has one of the lowest skill floors, and that you can get a bunch of free info just based off of the drones, looking where survivors took down, looking at your radar. She's very good for that, and she messes up a lot of the survivors still, surprisingly. But there's really, and you can do like high skill stuff where I'll keep in mind you can do high skill stuff with all these killers. But I feel like she's kind of in the middle pack for the lower skill bracket of the stealth killers. Now Ghostface is one that you have to watch out for, because what happens with Ghostface a lot of times is survivors can follow you and they can reveal you out of your power. Which is not good in the slightest. However, I do feel like Ghostface is able to face all survivors a little easier, in the sense he can go undetectable while people are looking at him, or go around a corner real quick and then turn back and chase off the person who's looking at him. Or just simply expose them if he does it quickly enough. I will also say he does have some of the best brown add-ons in the game. Next one I would say is, I know a lot of people are going to like me for this, but I do feel like the Ghoul has one of the lowest skill floors in the entire game. The reason I do not like, it's actually one of the few killers I dislike, and that's just because of his strength compared to his skill floor. He has one of the lowest skill floors in the entire game, yet he is in the top 5 strongest killers, which blows my mind. And generally I will say, like, the stronger killers do have some of the lower skill floors. I know a lot of people will disagree with me on that, but I'll explain my reasoning coming up here shortly. But he's able to get free injuries. He's a hit scan versus projectile. He's overall just a very easy killer to play. Like, if you want to be somewhere on the map, you can. He goes around the map better than even some of the teleporting killers like Demogorgon, which is absolutely insane, because I'm a fact he is like Legion in a sense. He gets free easy hits, but there's actually counterplay to Legion. Legion, you can drop the pallet on, or wait out pallet and then get him, but you can't really do that with the Ghoul. And he can jump over pallets very quickly as well, as long as apply a hindered, and just instantly be in our chase. I think he's very, very strong for as low a skill floor as he has. Now Doctor is unique in the sense, Doctor, you do have to work on timing his blast, but it's not too difficult to get the rhythm of, and honestly, it gives you a lot of info. I feel like what brings a lot of the killers down to the low skill floor level is if they provide information of some kind, and their power isn't like directly countered. So Doctor does provide pretty easy skill floor for most players to pick up on. He can help you find survivors. He is a fun, great killer to play. Let's move on to the next. Let's move on. Nemesis. Nemesis, he's lower because he has passive zombies. The passive zombies help out with not only info, they provide slowdown on gens and totems. They locate people by screens, which is pretty cool, especially if you put on like a perk like Phantom Fear or Infectious Fright, Face of Darkness, that type stuff. I feel like that helps out, but you do have to aim the tentacle. Pig, she does provide passive slowdown, but you actually have to down the survivor first, and then she provides it. But I would say her charge is harder to aim than the Nemesis tentacle. Then you got Chucky. Chucky, he does have a lot of passes built into him, almost, with his height, being able to go undetectable, and a little bit of map mobility, not much, but a little with the dash. Given you shouldn't probably use it for map mobility, I still feel like you get punished less if you use it, which is very nice if you are trying to be a low skill floor killer. Now here's the part where it starts getting contentious. Like Blight, or not Blight, Billy, I would say he's probably third or fourth strongest right now currently in the game. And because he's so strong, and because he can count so well as get around the map very quickly, given you do have to be careful with bumping into things, I still feel like he's one of the lowest skill floor killers. And I feel like most players can pick him up pretty easily, especially if they play like a couple of games and get the muscle memory. I know a lot of people will say like Blight, Nurse, and Billy are hard to play, but I feel like if you play like 10, 15 matches, you can get the muscle memory down. I don't feel like it's that challenging to get the muscle memory down of those killers. I never have. I never understood why people thought they were hard to master, because they're really not. Given there are some people that need more accessibility. I'll get to that a little bit later. But I don't feel like Billy's that hard to master. Only, I feel like he's a little harder in the sense that you have to actually hit somebody first. And survivors can deny you the hit. But once you get his power, it's better than Billy's. Easier to use because you don't get stunned if you run into something. And you can down them instantly, break pallets, very similar to Billy. But yeah, it's mainly just for a fact you have to actually hit somebody first. Wesker, I would say, is a little bit hard in that his dashes do not one-shot down people. But he also does apply a passive infection rate, which is again useful. Blight, I would say he ends up, you do have to know how to curve him some, but I feel like since he does have shorter cooldowns than the other dash killers, you're not as punished compared to if you were another dash killer and then you ended up getting stunned or something, or go to the wrong side of the map. You're not going to be what's the word for it? You're not going to be only dashing and then running out of power across the map. You're going to have it back very, very quickly. Because he's very, very strong. He is incredibly strong, but I feel like he has one of the lowest skill floors. Nurse, I would say the only thing that really makes her challenging is that her plaid, I think, I forget what it is, plaid skirt, plaid dress add-on, that should be basic. Because it allows the killer to see where they're teleporting to. Given, if you're not using that, I can see her a bit higher skill for, but I feel like most people will be bringing the plaid add-on as soon as they play Nurse, unless they just completely don't look at add-ons at all. which changes up her completely. With it, I would say she's one of the easiest killers to learn. You just got point and click and memorize just the muscle memory for how long you hold the button. And that's really it. And along with a little bit of prediction, but it's not that significant. The next one, Amrio. The killer I made the most. I would say she's in the middle of the pack. She is. You do have to know where teleports are, but she's still M1 at the end of the day. So you can maneuver around pallets pretty easily. I believe she provides a lot of passive benefits that help her out. Just using her power to begin with helps you out, and a lot of survivors do not understand how to go up against her, which really helps her out. Plague, she has a lot of passives and a sense of her infection. However, now we're starting to get more to the projectile killers, and I do believe a lot of the projectile killers require more skill than the dash killers and the stealth killers. So you do have to aim, but that passive helps out a lot. Just being able to keep people injured helps out a tremendous amount. My next one, Hailmaster, she is an M1 killer with a projectile, so she's kind of a combination. However, she also has map mobility, which I feel like really helps her out as well. And she can injure with her projectile if she knows how to time it right. I feel like she's pretty easy to pick up. Nothing too difficult. You do have to kind of learn how to curve stuff, but it's less atrocious than some others. Springtrap. Springtrap, he is a near killer, so I was kind of finding placement for in last minutes. I think he is a combination in between a projectile and M1 killer. I'm wondering if I want to move him up. I won't. Mainly just because I do tend to go to a side weaker a killer is. The higher they place on or the higher their skill floor is generally. However, there are some exceptions. The thing that makes Springtrap hard to use is just figuring out the timing for his ats fall off. It's nearly instant, but you do have to figure out when to throw it, when not to throw it, when to end up bringing it back to you if you want to stay in one or if you don't want to stay in one. Deathslinger, you have to make sure you line up your shots, but that's really the biggest thing with him, along with figuring out your map placement. Demogorgon, he is, what do you call it? You have to figure out where it places teleports. He's kind of like a mix in between a trap killer where you have to set up, but a teleporting killer, a little bit of stealth, and then a little bit of a dashing killer. I feel like he is really middle of the pack in a lot of ways, and especially with his skill floor, I feel like is. Because I feel like if you set up your teleports in the wrong spot, or don't teleport enough, or teleport too often, you can get easily punished. Clown is pretty detrimental if you miss your bottles. And I feel like balls do not do as much as some other projectiles. He's still one of my favorite killers to use, but they do feel a little underwhelming, especially his yellow balls. However, they are doing a rework on him, so he may change on my tier list for skill floors. Huntress, I would say she is the essence of what a projectile killer is. She can do long range snipes, which I think is very skill expressive if you can do it. However, a lot don't, and I feel like you do get punished if you miss your hatchet. Um, Although I feel like the Unknown and the Trickster, you get punished more. Unknown kind of has his mobility he can lean into. Trickster, though, he has a main event, and for a longest time, I did not even know he had the main event. Um, and I feel like it's very, very easy to get punished as Trickster if you do not use your main event. Um, so there's that. And Twins, I feel like Twins is one of those killers you constantly have to be focused on because you're swapping in between two different characters all the time and two different positions on the map. I feel like that can be very um, jarring a lot of the times. And you also have to be able to know when to call back your Victor if you need to, or when to swap. And if you do at the wrong times, I feel like you can be punished, especially in a healing mode like we're going through right now. Xenomorph gets punished heavily by turrets. Heavily if you miss. It is awesome they have map mobility because that does help them out a bunch, but I believe they can very easily get exploited by both of those. Dredge is kind of the same way, and he gets, if you drop down your Ridden and try to use your power, I believe it's very easily to get a survivor who just holds W key and can just keep on going and just keep on going and going. And you never ever catch up with them. Even if you teleport, they'll just turn around and they'll keep holding W. So you really have to learn how to time your Ridden. It's not the hardest one to time, but it can be difficult. Okay, next one. Pyramid Head. Pyramid Head, I would say his difficulty comes from his tank controls. Along with lack of map mobility. He does have very strong power, however, I feel like compared to like a dash killer or something, it's a much harder timing to learn because you have to kind of learn how to predict things. There's a lot more prediction, and if you miss, you get punished more. So that's the reason I feel like he does have a higher skill floor. Artist, I feel like has a higher skill floor in that you have to almost for the same reason Pyramid Head does, but the way how I would describe Artist, like she kind of has tank control similarly when you're doing birds, but you also have to figure out how many birds to use. You have to figure out if you want to send them to dens or if you want to just do it on a survivor directly in front of you, and just managing all that. And I feel like it can be very, very hard for a lot of players to learn. Combined with the fact, like her terror race, one of the few things I actually hate about Artist, I hate her terror race. Her terror race I find very distracting because it's so high pitched. I do not find very many sounds in this game like really bad or irritating at all. Literally, it's only the Artist chase music, just because it's literally a high-pitched violin or string instrument, and it can be jarring. But going on to our next one, Legion. I would say Legion has a high skill floor in a sense that you have to learn how to wait for survivors to drop pallet, along with figuring out your distance in between survivors and how to chase them. If you can't do that, it's very difficult. Although I will say most survivors don't know how to just stun him out of power. They don't know how to vacuum at all, which is makes him, he gets by a lot better than I would think, but I would still say his skill floor is pretty high. Next one. Okay, here's another contentious one. the two trap killers, Trapper and Hag. Trapper, I feel like even though he's one of starting off killers, I feel like because of how weak he is, along with because of how weak Hag is, given to a lesser extent, I feel like they have some high skill floors because it's so easy to punish as Survivor. You can literally just have somebody follow Trapper the whole game and disarm traps. Hag, you can do the same thing, and he's also a lower speed killer to begin with, so even less map mobility. And this, she can't insta down, she can't snowball as quickly as Trapper can, since Trapper just insta downs people. But that's kind of my reasoning of why I would say they have a higher skill floor, because they're so easy to punish from the Survivor side. And now on to Leatherface. Leatherface, he's kind of odd man out. I would say the thing that makes Leatherface difficult is something I struggle with less than Light and Nurse, is getting the timing of the chainsaw right. And I didn't even know like Leatherface had like charges to his chainsaw for the longest time. So I literally will only use one charge at a time. It would be very, very easy for survivors to punish me. And to this day, it can be a little bit tricky to manage my charges and make sure I conserve someone I need to and don't conserve someone I don't. It's a very difficult ability at times, given you can count, but there is anti-camp in the game. It's much harder, much more difficult to do it now. So I would say he has one of the higher skill floors. Spirit, I would say, has a high skill floor in the sense he is a accessibility nightmare. If you have any type of hearing impairment, she can be very difficult to play. She's one of the stronger killers. She's, I would say, in the top 10 at least. But she can be very difficult if you have any type of impairments, which I feel like they should rework her. I feel like she should be more accessible to our people. I feel like she should have some type of ripple effect for footsteps you can see, but only ever so slightly. And then reduce her audio a little bit, but at least give that little ripple effect. I feel like will help her out for a lot wider range of people while not making her super strong. Okay, Vecna, I would say he's one of the harder killers to use in the sense that he has multiple abilities. He's rising up. I would say he's been getting a lot of buffs for some reason, which is kind of crazy to me, because I was thinking he's like B tier. Which really, Singularity recently got buffs as well, and sure Dracula did. But he is, Vecna, you have to understand all the powers, how they all work. There's a lot that goes into it, and if you mess up, I feel like you do kind of get punished more, especially if survivors know how to use the items correctly, which it can be hit or miss, but when they do, I feel like they do know how to use the items very effectively to counter him. Next one, Singularity. Singularity, the reason I would say he has a high skill floor is because Whiplash from cameras. Constantly going in and out of cameras, especially on indoor mounts, can be very confusing, and especially if you do not know the maps. So it can be very jarring. Armario has it a little bit, but I would say it's, and even a lot of the teleporting killers have it to a less extent, but I feel like it's more so prevalent with Singularity, and it can really confuse you and mess up your mind. He is one of the strongest killers. However, I feel like that Whiplash can be very difficult a lot of times. Then I would say Dracula is the one with the second high skill floor. I've never There's only one killer I've struggled more with. I feel like Dracula took me the longest amount of time to feel like I kind of got confident in his abilities because you're managing three different abilities, and even though some people will say his abilities individually are stronger than a lot of killers, I don't really think that. I think they're even, if not a little weaker, mainly based off of the fact that I like killers with passives. So like I like Pyramid Head because he has the cages. I like Spirit because she has um the phases, or not the phases. I guess the phasing in and out effect. I really like that effect. I wish there was a way for me to tell I was actually using it, but I like it, and I have seen where it comes in handy a lot of times. Um, and it's helped me at quite a few different loops. However, in Wesker, he has his dashes, and they actually apply like a slowdown hinder effect. And I like that slowdown effect. Dracula, he's all chase all the time. He has map mobility, help him around the map, which is free bat for him, which helps out a lot. But I feel like it's very easy if you do not know how to use your abilities and when to swap for the different loops. So that's the reason I would say he's the second highest skill floor killer. The first, I would say it would be Knight. Knight, not only does he have his controls all on the same button, just like Dracula and just like Freddy, which can be very hard in figuring out which one you want to use at the right time, because you can double click by accident and then you gotta go through the cycle again to select that ability, which I think is terrible design. I feel like they should have a spin wheel like Vecna. He's also weaker. He's one of the weaker killers. I would say he's in like the middle killers, top 15 to top 25 strongest killers in the game. His ability is all slowdown, but a lot of times survivors can kind of hold W to the same degree that you hold W with Dredge, but you have to constantly worry about swapping in and out of your guards and selecting the appropriate guard. I know a lot of people will say he should be lower skill floor, but I feel like the fact he is weaker while you have to spam through the different guards and figure out which one works the appropriate amount of distance, along with get your timing correctly and make sure you travel the right amount of distance, along with going through a different angle. I feel like that is, to me, he seems like the high skill floor killer in a game, especially when you consider the different mount tiles and a way how you kind of have to go through them differently because of the guards. But yep, that is my list for the high skill floor killers to low skill floor killers. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I love talking about DBD. I stream every Sunday at 8 p.m. and I hope to hear from y'all again sometime. So bye bye. Y'all have a great day.